Hello, everyone. If you are well versed in astrology, you don't need to be a comic one, just someone who studied astrology for quite a while, you are well aware of the phenomenon of being out of bounds. But if you're not, let me explain it very, very briefly what it means. The sun simply makes a 47-degree belt. If you take a look at what it does on the winter solstice and on the summer solstice, it's going to be uh, either south or north of the celestial equator by 23 degrees and 26 minutes. And that approximately 47-degree belt is what we call the place where the planets are moving around. This is something that the Chaldean priests realized way back like 6,000 years ago, and that is why they crushed the sky into the narrow band of the ecliptic or the zodiac. Really, the zodiacal signs are on those belts. Sorry about my voice. I'm trying to get it back. Sorry about that. Anyhow, so that's what the sun does on the two solstices, and that is what every other planet does. That is what the Chaldean priests realized, and that is how they actually started to only look at that portion of the sky. And sometimes planets are moving above or before that belt, below that belt. If they are not, so if they are on this particular belt within those boundaries, then they are giving us a performance of our own lives. So you can actually look at the zodiac and the zodiacal belt as a stage, as a celestial stage, where the planets are playing around, fooling around, and playing with our lives, because that is what astrology is about. But sometimes they travel above or below that belt. And what happens during this period, they are leaving the boundaries actually. So they are not behaving the way they usually should be when they are in their normal selves. This is something very, very similar when, let's say, that you are attending a party, but at the same time you are expecting an important phone call, and your phone is in your pocket, and all of a sudden you can feel that it is vibrating. So you leave the party and go out to the corridor or the garden or somewhere. So you leave the main attraction and you distance yourself into some place else where you are separated from what is happening in within the place where the party is going on. You can hear them, but they can't see you, or you're not there actually. So you're somewhere else. And yes, you are aware of somehow what is happening there, but the people there are not aware of where you are or what you are doing. So you are separate. You left the boundaries where the things could be defined or actually even acknowledged. So that is kind of a simile that I'm trying to use whenever I'm teaching out of bounds. But what is more important from a karmic astrological viewpoint, which you probably are not aware of, that if someone is born with an out of bounds planet, so anything is out of bounds, if it's declination, not zodiacal position, you won't be able to see it from a chart wheel. You have to check the declination, and it's if a planet's declination is either to the north or to the south, minus or plus um, over 23rd degrees and 27 minutes. So let's say it's only 23 degrees and 40 minutes. That is already out of bounds. And when this happens, if you see it in a native chart or you see it in a mundane chart, that planet is out of bounds. And if it's a native chart, then the native suffer from extreme pain, because pain is what shoots the soul out of its physical body, and that is what out of bounds represents. And actually, if you take a look at such a chart, you usually will see a number of other issues. For instance, when you look at the asteroids and centaurs, those extremely painful events can be actually detected and can be even well, if not healed, then at least, healing always starts with recognition, awareness, and acceptance. Those three things are essential when you want to be healed, and no one else can heal you, only you yourself. And the reason for this little chit chat that I'm providing for you at the moment, or thinking aloud, is because Pluto is at the moment out of bounds. So let's take a look at what it actually means. It's very to the south. I did prepare, hold on a second, let me see what I did. I did prepare something for you. And yeah, I gave this clickbait title to this video, whether or not the Lord of the Underworld is leaving the human spheres, because that is what it is. So here's the celestial globe. Here's the celestial equator, which is a continuation or a reflection or a projection of our equator, of the earthly equator. And you have a northern hemisphere. This is our hemisphere in the Western world, in Europe or in North America, and this is the southern hemisphere. And Ecuador, for instance, and a couple of other towns are on the celestial equator. And as you can see, one of such, this is, by the way, this is from Solar Fire, one of such place is, this is 10 degrees, 20, so this should be 23.5. Actually, this is the winter solstice point, and this is 23 degrees and 26 minutes. And at the moment, Pluto is at 23 degrees and 32 minutes. So as you can see, it is a little bit out of bounds. It's not too out of bounds. I'm not going to elaborate on how out of bounds the planet is, but the more it is, the more distanced it is from the human spheres. Pluto at the moment is just a little bit out of bounds, okay? The process started on August 29th, and it will be out of bounds till November 23rd. And the position it occupies on the zodiac is in Aquarius, 1 degree 49, when it was the starting date, and it will reach 1 degree 45 only. Why? Because every time Pluto goes out of bounds, it does when it is retrograde. It doesn't mean that every time it is retrograde, it becomes out of bounds. It's very important. It is quite often retrograde because it has a very elliptical orbit, and it's quite inclined from the ecliptic, I think 17 degrees or something like that. And that is why it is crossing over Neptune's orbital territory. So that is why in karmic astrology we consider Pluto a centaur, a TNO or centaur, whatever, however you use it, something that is over or trans-Neptunian, or it orbits behind Neptune's orbital position, but at the same time it also reaches into it, and that is what centaurs do. Centaurs and TNOs and SDOs and whatever. It doesn't matter what kind of astronomical labor you provide for a body that is actually orbiting the Kuiper belt, because that's the region we call. In karmic astrology, it doesn't really matter. We call them centaurs, and they all are linked to your karmic wounds. And actually, Pluto kind of is like that. Pluto is the leader of those people, those celestial objects. So this is considered to be a 10-year period. This is what all the I checked a couple of people who wrote about Pluto being out of bounds. And they always say that it's a 10-year period. And the last time it occurred was 73 years ago. Actually, if you take a good look, and I went back and I took a good look, it was out of bounds for a very short period of time between the 18th of December 1941, and the end period was sometime in 1953. So that is longer than, it's almost 13 years, 12 years for sure. So actually there's 10 years an approximation. You need to check every time. But what is fascinating is the fact that, if you see a planet out of bounds, for instance, the moon, which is quite often out of bounds at the moment, it is in the period of being out of bounds. What happens is it kind of stays out of bounds. And once it goes back, like for Venus or for Mars or Mercury, when it goes then out of, I mean, it goes out of bounds, and when it goes back into the bounds, so to speak, then actually it doesn't go out again for quite a while. And with Pluto, it's different. This is a 10-year period where it goes out of bounds for 2 to 4 months, even sometimes 5 months, and then goes back and behaves normally. So it's like in and out, in and out. And that is what makes it, I think, unique. And so let's take a look. And again, you need to remember that it occurs when it goes retrograde, but not always. Within its 250-year orbital period, it only occurs every like 8 years or something like that. So here are the further out of bounds periods, and I only did the degrees up till 29, because it's no use really looking so much further. We might not even be aware. I mean, look around what's happening in the world. Our Western leaders in the EU are really adamant to trigger World War III, because that's the only way to somehow get rid of Putin and annex the Russian territories. And what they want to do is they want to grab their unlimited resources. That's it. Just to let you know, and they don't care otherwise. Anyhow, so we may not be around as humankind, but let's hope we will. So here are some of the periods, and as you can see, it starts with just a 4 months period or 3 months period now, and then it becomes a 4 months period, and then it accelerates and the number of days enlarges. But then there are 4 years when it's approximately around 150-ish, or between 147 and 155. That's the peak. And it always, as I said, it always starts with a retrograde Pluto and ends with a direct Pluto, and the degrees are approximately the same. It hardly ever moves really, so it's like just a couple of minutes away from each other. And so those are the dates we can actually check. So let's take a look at what it does. And looking back at the periods when it did something like that, I'm sure you are aware, and I also spoke about this quite a while, some time ago, but quite a few times, that if you take a look at what happened with Pluto in Aquarius, you're not very happy. You shouldn't be very happy about it, because you had the French Revolution, which is one of the most horrid civil wars in history. Really, it was brutal and murderous and bloody. But you also had the American Revolution and the Industrial Revolution. So it was a revolutionary period. Now, what are Pluto's keywords in general? Power, transformation, transmutation, and it has the tendency to break down old structures and renew them, but not in a way like Uranus, because Uranus blows up everything it touches, and then nothing remains in their wake. So it's like really there's only destruction, complete destruction, like an anarchist who doesn't know what he wants. All he knows that he doesn't want what is happening. So that's Uranus and the anarchist. Pluto is a transformer. What it does is there's a structure, and it goes down and completely demolishes it and goes down to rock bottom, and then something new is emerging. That is why, for instance, for Scorpio, the phoenix, the bird phoenix, is a symbol. And so it is for Pluto. And those people who have a strong Pluto or prominent Pluto in their chart, I have my Pluto, my ascendant. Yes, I am able to transform, first of all, and also to regenerate things and myself as well. And also, yes, I hit rock bottom a couple of times, but I was luckily so far, I was always able to emerge out of the chaos, out of the destruction, with some new plan, with some new ideas. And this is something that Pluto does very often, because the regenerative powers are quite important. I didn't put that down, but you probably know that. Now, when you look at out of bounds Pluto, what you see is that because in general, out of bounds means that we are kind of demolishing, getting rid of the boundaries. So one of the things, the important things is that above the above mentioned things for Pluto will uh, be there without any restriction or boundary. So it's really something huge. And if you take a look at the periods when Pluto was out of bounds, you always see some important and significant power shifts. And these power shifts are very, very often hostile. This is exactly what you see now. We are in the middle of this out of bounds Pluto, and the war rhetoric really picked up, really accelerated. Now they are already threatening with NATO strikes, and they are making all kinds of false flag things, with the drones, which were empty drones. Well, anyhow, so they say that 19 drones kind of attacked, went into Poland. Of course, nothing happened because they were just drones, empty ones without weapons. And NATO was only able to catch 3 of them. That is kind of alarming. Hungary is a NATO country. I would really, really appreciate if NATO was more effective. But what we can see is really not very promising. But anyhow, and then all kinds of other false flag attempts to trigger third war, full blown up world war. So we are not very happy about that, but that is exactly how Pluto behaves in such a circumstance. And then, of course, there will be also extreme pain involved in the whole process, simply because out of bounds planets signify extreme pain. So that is what we can actually uh, hope for. No, I wouldn't say hope for. This is what we have to brace ourselves. That is, this is going to happen, and we need to pay attention, and we need to keep a close eye, a close look, a close attention on what is happening in the outside world. And uh, because Russia and a couple of others in Europe, for instance, France, is a nuclear power as well. If this is going to be a full-blown war, it's going to be a nuclear war. And we know that Pluto rules plutonium as well, which is necessary if you want to build a nuclear bomb. So it's not very nice, but at the same time, we could actually use these periods for real transformation, for complete transformation, and make this a better world. Because I find it really ridiculous that the people in Europe are suffering, that they are completely becoming complete paupers just because food prices and energy prices are skyrocketing. They lost their security, and now the world leaders are paying an exorbitant amount of money for new weapons. Think about the things we could do with that money. We could actually make everyone much more secure, much healthier, much better off. But of course, this is something that the world powers don't want. They don't want you to be secure. They don't want you to be healthy, happy, because then you would have time to think. But if they toss you into poverty, then all you will think about is how you're going to eat your next meal, or how are you going to feed your child or heat your home. And that is exactly what they are trying to do. Not very nice, I agree, but it is up to us how a celestial phenomenon is going to be utilized in our own lives. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.